Good afternoon. Between January 11th and February 28th, 3 unidentified suspects went on a crime spree involving multiple armed business robberies of local gas stations such as Speedways and the Circle K, a Penn Station restaurant, and 3 Family Dollar stores. The suspects eventually acquired the name Double Tappers, given their particular MO of robbing businesses in succession. During the course of this investigation, the robbery unit utilized several investigative resources and leads from evidence collected from multiple crime scenes to develop IDs on the suspects involved. On March 7, 2022, the robbery unit was conducting covert surveillance on the 3 suspects believed to have committed 9 armed business robberies within the Louisville metro area and surrounding jurisdictions, to include Middletown and J-Town. During these surveillance efforts, robbery detectives observed the 3 subjects were in attire worn in previous holdups and casing several businesses within the 7th Division. In order to prevent another violent holdup from occurring, the robbery unit coordinated with 7th Division officers to conduct a felony stop on the suspect vehicle when it was safe to do so. As officers performed a felony stop at Preston and St. Rita, the suspect vehicle eventually pulled over but then fled. Officers initiated a vehicular pursuit which traveled throughout multiple divisions and concluded at 23rd and Hale in the 2nd Division once the vehicle became disabled. When the vehicle was located, all 3 suspects had fled and remained outstanding. A short time later, robbery detectives located the suspects at 2220 Heather Lane in a different vehicle, which was utilized in 2 previous business holdups. Robbery notified 6th Division officers, CID, SWAT, K-9, and the air unit to coordinate apprehension efforts. At 16:27 hours, the occupants in the vehicle were taken into custody without incident. 2 of the 3 suspects, Anthony Delshawn Miller and Philip Anthony Stewart, were transported to the robbery office for questioning. Robbery detectives Mason and McGill, who are to my left, obtained full confessions from Miller and Stewart regarding their involvement in the aforementioned robberies. Detectives are still investigating the identity and whereabouts of the 3rd outstanding suspect. Multiple suspects search warrants were completed throughout this investigation and during its conclusion, which yielded the recovery of multiple firearms and clothing evidence linking the suspects to the robberies. Anthony Miller was charged with 7 counts of robbery first, possession of a handgun by convicted felon, and fleeing and evading by LMPD. Middletown and J-Town were also able to charge Miller with 1 count of robbery each for a total of 9 business robberies. Philip Anthony Stewart, the second suspect in custody, was charged with 4 counts of robbery first by LMPD. Middletown and J-Town were able to charge Stewart with 1 count of robbery first based off our investigation for a total of 6. I think it's important to mention the tremendous teamwork displayed by the various units within LMPD and our fellow police agencies, which were vital in this investigation. The various patrol units, our digital forensic unit, CID, SWAT, K-9, and the air unit were instrumental in bringing this case to a safe and successful resolution. It's also worth mentioning that the robbery unit is comprised of 10 highly dedicated, reputable, experienced, and skilled investigators and sergeants that are excellent at what they do. This is evident by the unit's current clearance rate of 61%, which is double the national average reported by FBI's UCR. In 2021, the unit's clearance rate was 62%, which is also more than double the national average. Just goes to show that the investigations that these detectives and COs help make are top-notch, and it's a great unit to work for. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you talk about, you considered these guys before you caught them armed and dangerous?
There were, all 9 of the holdups were armed robberies, so they did involve a handgun.
Have they been violent in the past?
I'm going to hand that over to Detective Mason and McGill, the lead detectives on this case.
Good afternoon. To answer your question, they are violent, but as far as their past, I can't get into that. Obviously, some of these questions are going to be that we can't answer. We've conferenced this case with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office this morning. An indictment is pending on this case, so there's just some details that we won't be able to get into, like their criminal history and what their past is.
Related to these robberies that you've arrested them for, have they been violent in any of those cases, or just?
Well, I mean, these are armed business robberies, so they're coming in brandishing firearms and demanding cash from the business. So I would say that's violent. I mean, anytime you have an employee who's, working at a gas station at 3 a.m. and somebody comes in with a gun, I would say it's a violent encounter. So.
Do you have any estimate as to how much was taken?
Again, that's going to be details investigation we have to withhold.
What was maybe the one biggest thing that allowed you guys to make an arrest here?
I think the lieutenant talked about it. These we called them the double tappers. I mean, they were hitting in succession within 20, 30 minutes of each other in most of the robberies. So what we look for is patterns. We look for clothing, a lot of similar clothing, the patterns, the MO, the modus operandi, stuff like that. So that's the stuff we look at as investigators to try to link all these. So.
Are they looking for something specifically, or is this one of those sort of crimes of opportunity type?
I think they were just trying to fund a habit of some sort.
And when you look at the robberies that you guys handle, is it normally a pattern of repeating suspects committing the crime, or are they normally standalone?
I would say most business robberies are serialistic in nature, so I would say that's a fair statement. Most of these suspects will repeat. Yes.
Could you go back over how you were able to catch them when you spotted them and what happened after that?
Yep. So as far as some of the details of how we identified them, we'll have to let the courts play out before we can release that stuff. But it was, like the lieutenant said, this was a coordinated effort. We have 10 people in the unit. Every one of us contributed to this in a major way. We had been following one of the individuals for a short time, and that's why we were doing covert surveillance in order to find a safe place to obviously take him into custody, and that's how it unfolded yesterday. So as far as the details of the investigation and how we wrapped it all together, that'll have to wait until the court goes out.
But after you located them, can you just talk about the part that what happened after that? They didn't just give up.
So, well, they were taken into custody without incident yesterday afternoon. They were brought back to our office. Myself and Detective McGill did interview them. Given the preponderance of evidence, I mean, they admitted to their part in the robberies, and we're very confident we have the right guys.
And the other person, can you say anything about that third suspect?
At this time, we think we have an identity on that person. We're going to withhold on that. If obviously we reach out to the public, if they have any crime tips or tips on this case, please reach out to us. And we're still looking for that third individual right now.
Were there times that they were targeting these types of businesses, be it, I don't know, late at night, early in the morning, et cetera?
Mostly overnight, and then that kind of shifted into some afternoon hours as latter in the timeline. So
You guys work with this and see this all the time. I mean, obviously it's your profession. Have you noticed this as more of a trend of late, seeing people try to commit these types of crimes?
Not really, to be honest with you. I mean, I've been in the unit almost 9 years. It kind of ebbs and flows as far as obviously violent crime is up in the city, so I would say violent crime. But these type of offenses, I mean, these are pretty typical that our unit investigates. So.
A bit of a shot in the dark here, but we covered some armed robberies in E-Town, like 5 and 45 minutes over the weekend. Does this have any connection at all?
We have reached out to them, so and we're talking to them now just to make sure and cover everybody's bases and make sure these guys weren't involved in that.
Did
So
they ever hurt anybody?
at this point, we don't think anybody was injured in these.
There's 7 in Louisville, and then 2 in Middletown and J-Town?
There was 7 that LMPD charged, and then 1 in Middletown Police charged 1, and then 1 in Jeffersontown Police.
What is your message to anyone who thinks that they can get away with robberies, crimes like this?
You've got 10 people in the unit, 10 professionals, and we'll investigate it to the fullest extent.